Millionaire catches black nanny protecting his special daughter, and is shocked to discover the truth. The story you are about to hear will deeply move you and show how appearances can completely deceive even the most intelligent people. Don't forget to comment on which state you're watching from, as we want to know where our loyal followers who follow our touching stories come from. In a luxurious mansion on Manhattan's prestigious Upper East Side, where every architectural detail screamed ostentatious wealth and high social status, a dark secret was being hidden behind imposing imported mahogany doors and gardens perfectly manicured by European landscapers who charged fortunes for their exclusive services and were recognized worldwide by the most demanding international elite. Emma Sterling was only 8 years old and had been born with Down syndrome. Her almond-shaped eyes sparkled with pure, genuine innocence, but her daily life was much darker than her millionaire father could ever imagine. The girl lived under the care of Madison, her elegant stepmother, while Robert Sterling built his financial empire. Robert Sterling was CEO of one of Wall Street's largest investment firms. His net worth exceeded $200 million, carefully invested in various asset classes. Every day, he left home before dawn and returned after dark. Between executive meetings in mirrored skyscrapers and international trips to close multimillion-dollar deals, Robert barely had time to breathe or devote himself to his family. For Robert, marrying Madison Hamilton 2 years ago had been the perfect solution to all his family problems. She was everything a man of his social standing could want in a wife. Madison was as elegant as an international magazine model, as sophisticated as a European socialite of noble blood, and a magna cum laude graduate of prestigious Harvard University. More importantly, she had promised to care for Emma as if she were her own biological daughter. Madison always knew exactly what to say when Robert came home completely exhausted after another day of moving millions in the financial markets. She greeted him with a perfect smile, an exquisite gourmet dinner, and reassuring reports on Emma's development. "She's progressing wonderfully," Madison would say in her soft, controlled voice. "She spent the whole day playing and learning new things. You can rest assured about her well-being." Robert believed every word that came out of Madison's mouth. To him, she was the ideal wife who had definitively solved all his most complex domestic problems. Finally, his special daughter was in truly competent and loving hands. Or at least that's what he believed with all his soul and heart as a devoted father. But the cruel reality behind the luxurious closed doors was completely different and terrifying. Emma did not receive even a fraction of the love and specialized care that a child with Down syndrome desperately needs to develop properly. While Robert worked tirelessly to maintain and expand his financial empire, a silent and devastating tragedy was unfolding right under his nose, without him even suspecting it. Madison saw Emma as a shameful and embarrassing social burden. To her, the girl was not a precious child who needed unconditional love and special care, but rather an inconvenient obstacle that needed to be kept away from the critical eyes of Manhattan's sophisticated elite. The mask of perfection that Madison wore in public hid a calculating coldness that few could imagine existing in such an apparently refined woman. The contrast between the Sterling family's public and private lives was stark and disturbing. At social events, Madison played the role of the perfect stepmother with impressive theatrical precision. She spoke affectionately about Emma, made up touching stories about the girl's progress, and received compliments from other members of New York high society about her maternal dedication. "How lucky Emma is to have such a loving mother," the other elite wives would comment, unaware of the dark reality that lay behind this carefully constructed facade. Robert felt proud when he heard these comments. He genuinely believed he had made the right decision in marrying Madison. In his mind, preoccupied with numbers and business, everything was working perfectly at home. His daughter was being cared for by a competent and loving woman, allowing him to focus entirely on expanding his financial empire without guilt or family concerns. The situation was about to change dramatically with the arrival of a new person at the Sterling mansion. Someone who would uncover the dark truth and fight courageously for the justice Emma deserved. The girl's fate was about to take a completely different turn, and Robert Sterling's seemingly perfect life would never be the same after this shocking discovery. If you are moved by this touching story and want to continue following powerful narratives that go straight to the heart and make you reflect on life, don't forget to subscribe to our channel right now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the exciting videos we post regularly. Madison Hamilton Sterling treated Emma completely differently when Robert wasn't around. To her, the girl with Down syndrome was a social embarrassment that needed to be kept hidden from the eyes of high society. In the mornings, when Robert was still having breakfast before leaving for Wall Street, Madison pretended to be the loving and devoted stepmother with an Oscar-worthy performance. "Good morning, my dear princess," Madison would say in a theatrically sweet voice, stroking Emma's brown hair while Robert watched with satisfaction from across the table. "Did you sleep well? Today we're going to have a wonderful day full of educational activities together." Robert smiled approvingly, convinced he had made the perfect choice in marrying such a loving and maternal woman. But as soon as Robert's armored limousine disappeared through the electronic gates of the property, Madison was completely transformed. The mask of affection and attention fell instantly, revealing a cold, calculating, and cruelly indifferent woman. Her eyes lost all trace of human warmth, and her voice became as sharp as Arctic ice. The transformation was so radical that she seemed like two completely different people. "Now let's establish the rules of this house," Madison said with icy coldness, holding Emma's delicate arm with unnecessary force. "You will remain quiet, you will not make those strange noises that irritate me so much, and you will not bother me while I take care of my important business. Children like you need to learn how to behave properly in civilized society." Emma, with her innocent and naturally confident mind, couldn't understand why the woman who was supposed to love and protect her treated her with such harshness and coldness. The girl's large almond-shaped eyes filled with confusion and fear every time Madison raised her voice or showed impatience. Emma tried to be obedient and please Madison, but her natural cognitive limitations made it impossible to meet her stepmother's unrealistic and cruel demands. "Stop making that silly face," Madison would yell when Emma couldn't understand a complex instruction. "You're deeply annoying me with that empty, unintelligent expression. You need to learn to act like a normal, functional person, not a deadweight who only brings trouble to this respectable family." Madison's cruel words cut deep into Emma's sensitive heart. The girl, who naturally radiated love and joy, began to isolate herself more and more, spending long hours hidden in dark corners of the huge mansion. She developed a defensive habit of rocking her body back and forth when she was distressed, a behavior that further irritated Madison and triggered new waves of verbal cruelty. The situation worsened dramatically when Madison began to implement an elaborate system of severe punishments. During the lavish parties she threw to impress the New York elite, Emma was systematically locked in her room as if she were a troublesome animal. "We can't risk her causing an embarrassing scene in front of important people," Madison coldly justified to the terrified maids who witnessed the daily abuse. These parties cost tens of thousands of dollars and brought together influential senators, Supreme Court judges, CEOs of multinational corporations, and ambassadors from strategic countries. Madison couldn't allow Emma's presence to compromise her carefully constructed image as the perfect wife and sophisticated hostess. To her, the girl was like a shameful secret that needed to be kept locked away and away from any possibility of public exposure. "If she cries, screams, or makes any kind of noise during the party, she will go without food for 2 full days," Madison threatened, looking directly into Emma's frightened eyes with intimidating coldness. "You need to learn once and for all that your actions have serious consequences and that I will not tolerate inappropriate behavior in my home." Madison's system of punishments became increasingly elaborate, cruel, and psychologically devastating. Deliberate deprivation of nutritious food, prolonged isolation in dark rooms, and constant humiliation became part of Emma's terrifying daily routine. The girl, who desperately needed love, positive reinforcement, and a nurturing environment to thrive, was being systematically destroyed from the inside out through methods calculated to break her childlike spirit. Emma began to have constant, disturbing nightmares. She would wake up in the middle of the night crying silently, afraid of disturbing Madison and suffering even more severe punishment. The girl began to lose weight visibly and developed a permanent expression of fear on her face that had once radiated pure, innocent joy. The other maids in the mansion witnessed the systematic abuse, but they were all too terrified to intervene or report the situation. Madison had made it crystal clear that anyone who questioned her parenting methods would be immediately fired and have their professional reputation destroyed. The atmosphere of fear and silence completely dominated the luxurious atmosphere of the house. The desperate and seemingly hopeless situation was about to change with the arrival of a special person. Someone with the courage, experience, and determination necessary to stand up to Madison and protect Emma. Fate was preparing a twist that would forever change the lives of everyone involved in this family drama. It was precisely at this moment of despair that salvation arrived at the Sterling mansion in the form of Keisha Washington. She was a 34-year-old African-American woman, recently hired as a specialized nanny through a prestigious agency. Keisha had a solid background in special education from Columbia University, as well as 15 years of experience working with children with Down syndrome. Keisha had a genuinely caring heart, shaped by years of caring for vulnerable children. Her professional eye and maternal intuition made her immediately realize that something was terribly wrong in that seemingly perfect home. The discrepancy between material wealth and emotional poverty was impossible to ignore. On her first day of work, a rainy Monday in October, Keisha found Emma hiding behind the grand piano in the library. The girl was rocking her body in a desperate rhythm, a clear sign of extreme emotional distress that any Down syndrome expert would recognize as a cry for help. When Keisha approached her gently, Emma clung to her with surprising strength, as if she had found a safe haven. It was the first time in months that anyone had offered the suffering girl genuine affection. "It's okay now, my dear princess," Keisha whispered sweetly, feeling Emma's small body relax in her arms. "I'm here to take care of you with all the love you deserve." Emma smiled shyly for the first time in weeks, her almond-shaped eyes shining with renewed hope. But this harmony was brutally interrupted. Madison, who had been watching from the doorway with cold eyes, decided to intervene immediately. She couldn't allow anyone to form an emotional connection with Emma, as this would compromise her control over the situation. "Keisha, I hope you understand that this child needs structured discipline, not excessive pampering," Madison said in an authoritative tone. "She needs to learn how to behave appropriately in society. Children with limitations like hers require strict educational methods." Keisha looked into Madison's cold eyes, feeling a chill run down her spine. Something sinister in the way this woman spoke about Emma set off all the alarms of her professional experience. Madison spoke of the girl as if she were a defective project, not a child who deserved love. "With all due respect, Mrs. Sterling," Keisha replied, maintaining her professional composure, "children with Down syndrome respond much better to affection, patience, and understanding than to strict discipline. Emma needs unconditional love and an emotionally safe environment to thrive." Madison's face twisted into an expression of barely contained anger. "You were hired to follow my instructions without question, not to give unsolicited advice. I know exactly what this house needs. You're just a maid and you should know your place." Over the next few days, Keisha secretly began documenting every episode of abuse she witnessed. She kept a detailed diary in code to protect the evidence in case Madison discovered her investigation. The situation grew more disturbing with each passing day, as new examples of cruelty were regularly uncovered. Keisha watched Madison publicly humiliate Emma, criticizing her appearance and behavior in front of other maids. "Look how she eats," Madison would say with disgust. "Like a wild animal. That's why she needs to be trained constantly." Emma would lower her head in shame, her cheeks turning red with humiliation. The nanny also discovered that Madison forced Emma to stand for hours as punishment for minor mistakes. "You will learn discipline," Madison would yell. "Normal people don't make these silly mistakes all the time." Emma would tremble with exhaustion, but she didn't dare sit down. Madison had also implemented a cruel system of negative rewards. If Emma managed to go a whole day without bothering anyone, she would receive a full meal. Otherwise, she would only get water and dry crackers. "You have to earn your food through good behavior," she would say coldly. On that first night in the mansion, when everyone had gone to bed, Keisha heard distressing sounds coming from Emma's room. They were muffled sobs that pierced the silence like cries for help. Following her conscience, she crept up the stairs and found that the door was locked from the outside. "Emma? It's me, Keisha," she called softly. "Are you all right in there, sweetie?" The answer came as a desperate whisper that broke Keisha's heart. "Keisha, I'm so hungry," Emma murmured in a trembling voice. "Madison said that naughty girls don't deserve dinner. She said I need to learn to behave like a normal person, but I don't know how to do that. I try to be good, but she always gets angry." Keisha's heart broke when she heard those innocent words. Without hesitation, she went down to the kitchen, prepared a nutritious sandwich with warm milk, and returned to feed Emma. At that moment, she understood that her mission went far beyond being a simple babysitter. "Here you go, my princess," Keisha said, offering the food with a warm smile. "You'll never go to bed hungry again while I'm here." Emma devoured the sandwich as if she hadn't eaten in days. Between bites, Emma whispered, "Keisha, please don't tell her you gave me food. She gets really angry and punishes me by making me stay in the dark." The child's words confirmed that Keisha had discovered systematic abuse that needed to be exposed urgently. Keisha began to observe the behavior patterns in the Sterling mansion more closely. In the mornings, when Robert was still present, Madison played the role of the perfect stepmother with impressive theatrical precision. But as soon as Robert left for work, the transformation was instantaneous and terrifying. "You need to stop making those annoying noises when important people visit our house," Madison said coldly, squeezing Emma's delicate arm. "You constantly embarrass us with your strange behavior. You need to learn to control yourself like a civilized person." Emma, her almond-shaped eyes filled with confusion, desperately tried to understand why the woman who was supposed to love her treated her with such cruelty. The girl made Herculean efforts to please Madison, but her natural limitations made it impossible to meet her stepmother's unrealistic demands. Keisha secretly documented each episode of abuse in her coded diary. She discreetly photographed Emma's emotional wounds and recorded Madison's cruel words. Keisha knew she would need solid evidence to confront a woman as powerful as Madison Sterling. The situation escalated dramatically when Madison discovered that Keisha had fed Emma during the night. Her rage was explosive and terrifying. "How dare you challenge my authority in this house?" Madison shouted, veins bulging in her neck. "You are a mere servant and have no right to question my parenting methods." "Depriving a child of food is not education, it's abuse," Keisha replied courageously, placing herself protectively between Madison and Emma. "Emma needs proper nutrition to thrive. She's not an animal that can be trained through starvation." Madison turned pale at the direct confrontation. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. My husband trusts me completely. Who do you think he's going to believe? A black nanny from the projects or his Harvard-educated wife?" Madison's racist and elitist words only strengthened Keisha's resolve. She hugged Emma, who was shaking uncontrollably, and made a decision that would change everything. "We'll find out exactly who he believes when he knows the whole truth." Over the next few weeks, the silent war between Keisha and Madison intensified dangerously. Madison began sabotaging Keisha's work, creating situations that made her look incompetent. She spread little lies to the other employees, trying to isolate Keisha socially within the house. "She's a resentful woman who wants to manipulate my husband using Emma," Madison told the other employees. "You need to keep an eye on her. Women like her are dangerous and can't be trusted in a decent family home." Madison also began to intensify her abuse of Emma as a way to provoke Keisha. She knew that the nanny would suffer when she saw the child being mistreated, and she used this as a psychological weapon. "See what you do when you defy me," Madison whispered to Keisha after punishing Emma. But Keisha refused to be intimidated. She continued to gather evidence and, more importantly, build a genuine relationship of trust with Emma. The girl slowly began to open up, telling her about months of silent suffering and constant fear. "Madison told me that Daddy doesn't love me because I'm different," Emma confessed one night, tears streaming down her face. "She said I'm a burden to the family and that Daddy married her so he wouldn't have to take care of me by himself." Keisha felt her outrage grow with each revelation. "That's not true, sweetheart. Your dad loves you more than anything in the world. Madison is lying to you because she is a very sick and cruel person." Emma also revealed other devastating psychological abuse. "She makes me repeat that I'm stupid and ugly," the girl whispered. "She says that no normal person will ever want to be my friend. That I should be grateful she tolerates me in this beautiful house." Keisha's heart broke with every confession. Madison had systematically destroyed Emma's self-esteem, planting seeds of self-hatred in the vulnerable child's mind. It was a particularly cruel form of psychological abuse. Madison also forced Emma to apologize constantly, even when she had done nothing wrong. "I'm sorry for existing," Emma had to say every morning. "I'm sorry for being a burden on the family." This daily ritual of humiliation was completely destroying the girl's spirit. Keisha discovered that Madison kept Emma isolated from other children, claiming that she wasn't ready for social interaction. In reality, Madison feared that Emma would tell others about the abuse. Social isolation was yet another tool of control. The decisive moment was fast approaching. Keisha knew she would need the perfect opportunity to expose Madison completely. She began praying that Robert would come home at the right time and witness the truth with his own eyes. The tension in the house reached an unbearable peak. Madison, realizing she was losing control of the situation, began plotting Keisha's dismissal. She prepared false accusations and traps to compromise the nanny professionally. "I'm going to ruin this woman's career," Madison muttered to herself. She doesn't know who she's messing with. When I'm done with her, no respectable family will ever hire her again. But fate was preparing a surprise that would change everything forever. Robert Sterling was about to discover the shocking truth about his own home. The transformative moment arrived on a cold Friday morning. Robert Sterling returned unexpectedly from a business trip to London that had been cancelled due to contractual complications. Madison wasn't expecting him and was caught completely off guard in the middle of one of her most vicious episodes. Robert opened the front door with his keys and immediately heard angry screams echoing through the house. They were Madison's screams, followed by the desperate sobs he recognized as his daughter's. His heart raced as he followed the disturbing sounds through the luxurious hallways of the mansion. In the main living room, Robert was met with a scene that left him completely petrified. Madison was yelling furiously at Emma, who was curled up on the floor crying uncontrollably. Keisha desperately tried to position herself between the abusive stepmother and the terrified child. "What the hell is going on in this house?" Robert roared in a voice that echoed off the walls like thunder. His executive authority emerged instinctively in the face of the incomprehensible scene he was witnessing. Madison quickly tried to recompose her mask of social perfection, but it was too late. The truth was stamped on every detail of the scene: Emma terrified, Keisha in a defensive position, and the atmosphere charged with tension and palpable fear. "Robert dear, you're home earlier than we expected," Madison said in an artificially sweet voice. "I was just disciplining Emma because she broke a vase from your mother's collection. And this nanny had the audacity to challenge me in my own home." Keisha took a deep breath, knowing that this was the crucial moment. Looking directly into Robert's eyes, she declared, "Mr. Sterling, your wife is not telling you the truth. What you witnessed happens every day when you are not at home. Your daughter is being mistreated and psychologically abused." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert looked at Emma, who was clinging to Keisha's legs as if her life depended on it. Then he looked at Madison, whose face had lost all color. Finally, his eyes fixed on Keisha, whose expression showed courage and desperation. "These are absurd slanders." Madison exploded. "This woman is trying to defame me because I demand discipline in this house. She wants to turn Emma into a spoiled, uncontrollable child." Robert slowly approached Emma and knelt down beside his daughter. What he saw hit him like a punch in the stomach. The girl was visibly thinner, with deep dark circles under her eyes and an expression of constant fear that he had never noticed before. "Emma," Robert said softly, "Daddy's here now. Can you tell me what's been happening when I'm not at home?" The girl looked nervously at Madison before whispering almost inaudibly. "She makes me go hungry when I can't do things right," Emma murmured in a trembling voice. "She locks me in my room when her friends come to visit. She says I'm a disgrace and that you married her because you don't want to take care of me on your own." Each word was like a stab in Robert's heart. How could he have been so blind? How could he have trusted Madison so blindly without ever questioning his own daughter's well-being? Keisha seized the moment and pulled her diary from her pocket. "Mr. Sterling, I have documented everything I have witnessed over the past few months. Food deprivation, forced isolation, constant humiliation. Your daughter needs love and understanding, not systematic cruelty." Madison realized that her charade was falling apart. "Robert, are you really going to believe a nanny over your own wife? Think of our reputation. What society will say if you give credence to these ridiculous accusations?" Robert stood up slowly, his eyes fixed on Madison with an intensity that made the air seem heavy. "You are fired from this house," he said in a low but authoritative voice. "I want you to leave immediately and never come near my daughter again. Robert, think of everything we've built together." Madison pleaded desperately. "Our social life, our investments, our position in society." "We haven't built anything together," Robert replied coldly. "And now you're going to pay for every tear you've caused Emma." He grabbed his phone and called his lawyer, determined to break the cycle of silence and abuse. In the days that followed, Madison faced the legal consequences of her actions when Robert presented all the evidence to the authorities. Robert canceled all unnecessary trips and began spending real time with Emma, learning about her needs and rebuilding the trust they had lost. Keisha was promoted to special care coordinator, receiving not only financial recognition but the eternal gratitude of a father who had learned the true meaning of parental responsibility. Emma, though scarred by trauma, began to flourish under loving care. Her anxiety attacks subsided, she smiled again, and she developed the confidence that she was safe and loved unconditionally. The story ended with Robert holding Emma's hand as they walked through Central Park on a sunny Sunday morning. "I promise you'll never be alone again," he whispered, and Emma hugged him tightly, knowing at last that she was truly home.